Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to the Weekend Wellness Hour. We are back, and today we have a very special woman, Dr. Laurel Mellin, who is joining us to talk about this unique, new, revolutionary way of helping people get through stress and trauma. And we're going to be talking about this emotional brain training today and what that entails, how this all works, and how she has helped countless people change their lives and experience joy again. So Dr. Mellin has amazing background. She's a health psychologist. She's an associate professor. She has also written New York Times bestselling books, and she's been a guest of Oprah for 3 programs. So she has done amazing things and has great accomplishments. And I'm very honored to have her on today. So thank you so much for having this, be in your presence today, Dr. Mellin.
Well, Amy, it's such a pleasure to be here, and I love what you're doing. Just happy to be part of it.
Oh, thank you. I would like to start if we could go through a little bit of your background and how you even got into this realm and this little niche practice and how you're helping people.
Well, that's a really good question. It's a long history. I guess I started in an era when women didn't have the opportunities they did now. And do now, and also a time when I was just a misfit. I was too tall and too gawky and too all these different things. And I finally found a passion in nutrition because my dad had diabetes, and I loved my father so much, and I had a problem with overeating and emotional overeating. And I became a nutritionist only to land myself at the University of California, San Francisco, right in the middle of brilliant people who do neuroplasticity and stress physiology. And I was teaching groups as a faculty member to get to the root cause of pediatric obesity, it's just a drive that kids have, right? And I knew that the thinking methods were okay, but they weren't going to the root cause. I knew they weren't helping me with my own emotional eating problem. So I went back in the literature, dug down deep into 1940 when there was this study that by this woman named Hilda Brooke that showed that emotional connection is what it's about. So I started teaching it in the clinic, and just simple emotional tools in the family. And this mother came to me and she said, "What did you do to my daughter?" And I said, "I don't know what I did. I just taught her emotional." And she said she stopped overeating. She's happy. She's joyful. She's going out and playing. And whatever you did for her, I want. And I thought to myself, I don't have a clue what happened because the brain science hadn't been done. But I knew I would be a bad person if I didn't follow it. Yeah. And that's what I've done for the last 30 years. And the science got crafted out by really brilliant people all over, mainly at NYU, at UCSF. And so now we have this little jewel of a method, and I really do consider it a blessing. I don't think it's something I created. I think it's something that many, many people have contributed to. But the timeliness after the pandemic of people learning EBT is astonishing, because right now there's so much suffering going on, and it's absolutely avoidable by learning simple tools that take those emotional stuck places we all get into, that numbness and that false high, oh, everything's fine when it's really not, or being stuck in anxiety or depression or shame or hostility. And no matter which of those unbalanced feelings you have, they're not like a psychotherapeutic problem. They're not like a pathology. They're really a symptom of not having EBT, because if you have EBT, this emotional method, you take whatever that stressed out state is, and you get onto something which we all have in our brain, which is an emotional resiliency pathway. And what it does is it goes beyond mindfulness. It just, the low stress emotions that are up here, it goes into the reptilian brain, the limbic system and reptilian brain. And you use this very simple thing. It takes about 2 minutes. You go from that place of, like I last night, and remember, this is normal to be in stress overload, and it's not bad, because if you are in that stress overload and you get out of it, you actually make yourself more resilient. Right. So last night I got home and I was totally exhausted, and I was at what we call brain state 5, which means you're in a reactive state. And I knew in the back of the mind that probably wasn't real, that I was that miserable. It was probably just stress, because I've taught myself that. And so I turned to my husband and said, would you listen to me spiral up? And he's learned that, he probably wouldn't be my husband unless he's okay with that. And
Yeah.
so, of course, I'm always here. So I just go right through it, and I get back to a state of what's called neural integration.
Okay.
And that's the state where we're our best selves.
Okay. So you mentioned states. Can we go through, like, what are the states? And this is part of EBT, right?
Yes. So
Okay.
in 2007, we learned that the rule, what was clear to us, we had 500,000 people that have gone through EBT. We have big groups getting together. It was really clear that the people that were most stressed out were not being helped by the old form of this method. It was called the solution. And we said, we've got to take, you can't just ask how you feel. Even today, I was just training some therapists on this, and they think you should ask yourself, how do I feel? No, that may have been good maybe in 1990.
Okay.
But it doesn't work anymore. So
what's the problem with asking that? So what is that happens?
There are 5 levels of stress in the brain.
Okay.
There's level 1, where your neocortex is in charge. That's brain state 1. Level 2, where it's in between limbic and neocortex. That's you feel good, not great, but good. And 3 is the limbic system is in charge. You're at brain state 3, you feel a little stress. 4, you're really owned by the reptile. You're feeling definitely stressed. That's the one that most people go to. They go to 4, where they feel definitely stressed and they don't know what to do. And 5, completely stressed out.
Okay.
If you ask yourself, how do I feel, when you're at 3, 4, and 5, you freak yourself out. You say, well, I don't know. I'm anxious. Am I anxious? No, I'm depressed. No, I'm just a little delusional and I weigh too much. Or that you start finding problems everywhere. If you're at brain state 1 or 2, you can ask yourself, how do I feel? And the purpose of emotions is to tell you what you need. So if I say, how do I feel? My brain is not just psychological, but biological. And it will say, well, I feel a little hungry, or I feel a little lonely, or I feel a little sad, or I need to go to the restroom. So it puts everything together, and emotions are basically an alert system to tell us what is our most important need. And they do that beautifully at brain state 1 or 2. So it still works for those states. But once you get toxified with stress at 3, 4, and 5, the thinking brain that's supposed to oversee everything doesn't work very well. And the emotions go into overdrive and giving you false messages. And the stress response in that level, it's a different kind of wire, and it gets stuck on. So you can't get out of it. It's not your fault. It's just the way the brain works. So at 3, 4, or 5, you need to say, what's my stress level?
Okay.
Which is either 3, 4, or 5. And for each of these stress levels, 3, 4, and 5, there's a special, unique, and highly effective emotional resiliency pathway that if you use the technique for 3, 4, or 5, most people just go right to 4, because mainly they're in 4 most of the time when they don't feel good. And quickly and easily, it bypasses actions, it bypasses thoughts, gets on that super highway of emotions, and takes you right up to that joyful, connected state of brain state 1, where you can ask yourself, how do I feel, and what you need, and get a great answer. So it shortcuts all the mindful overthinking, what's wrong with me anyway, anxieties, ruminations, and it just cuts to the chase and gets you back to that connected, strong, powerful person you really are inside.
That's incredible. And so at each brain state, are there tools that you use to, well, I guess maybe for 3, 4, and 5, there's specific tools that you use to pull you back to a higher state? Is that kind of how it works?
Well, EBT is for both prevention and therapeutic, so you have to have a full set. When in 2007, when we realized there are 5 different resiliency pathways in the brain, 5 different simple tools that anyone can use quickly, then we had to shift to saying, instead of how do I feel, you say, what's my number? Let's say that I'm at 1. Let's say I'm feeling great, but I want to prolong it. And I use a technique for 1. It's right on the app. You have to use the app. Number 2, how do I feel? Let's say I'm at brain state 2. I just need to know, how do I feel? What do I need? I'm set. And then for then on 3, 4, and 5, something really beautiful happens. which is, and this is a secret of EBT, that I really, you know, how like you get so involved in the minutia of the research because I'm a scientist and I'm accountable for making a program that doesn't hurt people and actually gives them the best benefits. So I'm really in the minutia. And it wasn't until not that long ago where I thought, well, what is EBT really about? I know it's about the 5 levels of stress. You use the tool and spiral up. But what is the emotional technology breakthrough that we've been able to accomplish in all these years of so many people working so hard? And it's that you are inherently strong, good, and wise. And if when you feel otherwise, when your brain is telling you that you're not strong, you're weak, or you have to be overly in control because the world is so bad, or where there's no wisdom inside of you, it's just stress. And if you take that stressed out emotion and you fan it out, first expressing anger to blow off a lot of stress, it's the best feeling. And it immediately goes into sadness, fear, and guilt very quickly.
Okay.
And what happens then is your whole brain opens up and you begin to spiral up. Your natural resilience comes into play. And you say, what just happened? I'm in a whole different mindset. I don't have the stomach ache. I'm not overeating. I don't feel anxious. I feel kind of loving and lovable. And I kind of like myself now. So it's that those 4 feelings that people tell you not to feel, and that you can't get into your anger because it'll trap you and it'll kill you. And then you'll be a terrible person. If you use this resiliency pathway in your brain, this EBT pathway, it's actually good for you. And if you don't go into that anger, followed by 1 sadness, 1 fear, and 1 guilt, you will be depressed. So depression is an insufficiency of being able to protest. You know, depression is really about giving up hope. The brain changes and it goes to the negative. It stays stuck in the negative. It misses the positive emotions. And so you just plummet down into stress overload. So what you need is joy and hope. But in order to do that, you've got to learn how to be angry, then sad, then afraid, then guilty in a really quick order. Because if you don't express that protest, if you don't say, hey, this really sucks. This is really terrible. I hate that I feel so bad. Why is there a pandemic? Why is this going on? If you don't express your negative emotions in that way, about 6 to 9 angers, you can do it in your own head or aloud. You know, we have a circle of support in EBT, so people listen to each other, but it's very quick. What happens is the sadness becomes dangerous. You know, I dated someone before I met my wonderful husband, which I only met him 8 years ago. He's the love of my life, but I got lucky. But I was dating a man who said to me, well, I don't feel. And I said, oh, he says, because if I believe that if I ever start to feel, I will go down, spiral down and never come back up. And you know what? It made me so sad. I said, have you ever tried EBT? And what happens is if you've been told as a woman, women cannot be shrill, women cannot be demanding, or they're called witches or something like that. Men, any expression of anger, and then you have an anger management problem. So there's a huge prohibition across the genders and in between of you can't express anger. And what we're doing is doing it in a healthy way that opens the channels of resilience in the brain. But if you don't have a way of doing that, the sadness gets dry and stuck and despondent and paralyzes you, and people get stuck in depression. So they go out and get antidepressants, which can be adjunctive and helpful, but you still have to go back and learn EBT to raise that set point. If you don't express anger, the fears will turn into anxiety or panic and guilt, which is actually healthy. Because if I say I'm guilty, like I say, okay, what did I contribute here? You know, what did I contribute? What could I learn for? I feel guilty that I was insensitive to that person. Okay, what do I need? I need to be a little bit more sensitive. So evolutionary biology, which all these emotions are based on, wants us to learn, change, and grow. So we need to be able to say, what did I do wrong? And I was raised in a family of perfectionists. I didn't know how to express guilt because I thought it was shame. And if you don't understand that guilt is just, hey, what's my power here? And you express it, you're not going to open up the channels of joy. the
Yeah.
brain will hold you back and you'll just feel like in a mediocre mood, but you won't feel free to be grateful and happy and secure and proud. So essentially, if you don't have these 4 feelings down and have it in a way where you progress through it, then what happens is you will have emotional health problems you don't need. But more than that, you'll have behavioral problems. You'll be eating, drinking, spending, overworking, over whatever, because that's how the brain works. But more importantly, you won't be honoring your inherent strength, goodness, and wisdom, and the joy that you really need to live your best life, to fulfill your promise of whatever those opportunities and talents are that you have in your life. You'll be blocked from them. And that's why I do this, more from a spiritual standpoint.
Yeah. And what you were touching on about we kind of have to suppress our anger, there is this big push on just only feeling and expressing positive emotions so that way your brain chemistry reflects it. But I understand there is value to allowing yourself to express some negative emotions so that you can move through it. Because if you're constantly only focusing on the positive, then you feel shame when you have some kind of negative emotion and you're constantly thinking, okay, I shouldn't be feeling this. I need to switch to positive. And so there's this internal conflict because you're trying to be one thing, but you need to express and feel something else. So I'm glad to hear you say that you want people to express the anger so they can move through it.
I think I want 2 things, and I'm glad you brought that up, Amy. One of them is to embrace that you are an emotional creature.
Yeah.
And it is completely normal to have strong negative emotions. And in fact, the research both at UCSF and at NYU in emotional resilience has shown that if you don't dig down into your negative feelings and be grounded in reality, not this false high, move quickly through the negatives, you do not change the basic circuitry in your brain that's outdated. Now, all of us right now have gone through a pandemic, right?
Right.
And it's changed the rules. But even though on a neocortex, a conscious level, we say, oh, it's a new world, our emotional brain that houses our unconscious basic expectations that are far more impactful and stronger than any neocortical thoughts are back in 2019.
Yeah.
Okay. And so so now coming out of the pandemic, people are more stressed, not less stressed. They may think they should feel better, but they're physiologically more stressed because there's so much of an update to get our conscious mind and our unconscious mind to be at one. And in that state of one or neural integration, that's where we're happy, healthy, and joyful. So part of this is, well, I don't want to sound negative. And I believe in love, gratitude, hope, forgiveness, compassion, awe, and joy. Those are the 7 higher order emotions that we use in EBT. But I also am scared out of my mind at the movement to be stuck in compassion because it's extremely unhealthy.
Okay.
And I hate to bring up statistics, but I'm in the health professions. I'm a health psychologist, but I'm also in the medical school. And the issue, and have been for more than 30 years, and the issue is the suicide rates in physicians right now is very high. And it's attributed in part to the fact that physicians are told this whole compassionate line of reasoning. I'm saying it nicely. And they're telling that they need to be in constant compassion. They do not. That is really bad for them. What they need to do is they have all these. I was talking to a pediatrician the other day, and she was in there with patients, kids that were cutting themselves. And kids, there's a lot of pain right now. Our young people are really in pain. All of us, in fact, the people that are doing best are the older people, because frankly speaking, in my generation, we didn't really take care of the last generation. We didn't really make sure that they would have all the benefits and more than we did. And people are suffering, particularly in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. But they're sitting there, she's sitting there with this stress coming into her brain, and she's supposed to be compassionate. No. What she did is she took our app, the EBT app, and she took it to her, the pediatrician from the next office. And she said, here, have you seen EBT? And the woman says, no, I know I'm just supposed to be compassionate. And together they moved in 4 minutes through this. I feel angry that I hate it, that I can't stand it. Sadness, fear, guilt. And then the brain opens up. And then you are truly cleansed of the stress, and you can be in authentic joy rather than stuffing your feelings. So number one, please do not aspire to be constantly compassionate. You need to be emotionally free to move through your emotions in an effective way so that you can deeply connect with your true self that updates your unconscious expectations about life and opens you to finding miracles everywhere.
That's amazing. And I love that. And I want to kind of go back a little bit. Can you touch on emotional intelligence and resilience a little bit more and just kind of explain that? And what does that look like for someone to be emotionally intelligent or emotionally resilient?
Emotional resilience means that you can be in all levels of stress at any time, particularly the 3, 4, and 5 state, but the best state is 4 and 5, because in that state, the neural circuits that determine how we respond to life. So as much as we think we're our thoughts or our emotions or our behaviors, if you look at me, you're looking at me right now. Okay, there's books here, and this is the pathway to joy in the back here. My daughter did that painting. So if you're doing that, you have every evidence that I am flesh and blood, right? And I am whatever emotions or thoughts, or my shoulders are going up. So that's not really true. What I am is, in my unconscious mind, there are circuits, neural circuits of either resilience that bring me up through the stress to joy, or reactivity that spiraled me down into stress overload. Everyone has both kinds of circuits and will their whole life. If you are able to go into stress and you essentially open that circuit that's making you stressed out, that's telling me I am not worthy, I'm not enough, I have no power, I have to be perfect, I am bad, all these things, and you open them up just by being stressed with expressing your emotions, you'll update it into a circuit of resilience that tells you, I am worthy, I am enough, I can do good. So essentially, by being able to go down fluidly and flexibly into the lower states in the brain, you take all that is about me that's reactive, and you take it up and over, spiral up, and create a resilient circuit. And we're doing that. Like right now, I'm grateful to be with you because I'm connecting with myself. And if some insecurities come up, like, am I going to be good enough? Is she going to like me? Am I too old? Am I too, this or too that? It's coming up, and I'm moving through it, and I'm making my brain more resilient by staying connected to my stress and moving through it, even on an unconscious level. So we are our circuits. We are not, when you hear that you should be resilient, that's in your thinking brain. Your resilience is actually based on, are most of your circuits reactive circuits or resilient? And the more they're reactive, not a problem, just process them through and go from spiraling down to spiraling up. And day by day, we are our own ashram. Our life and the stresses it presents us with is our own temple or our own church or our own being out in nature, because right there in our bodies, when we feel our feelings and we know how to move it from one side of the fence to the other, from the reactive to the resilient, we're creating a healthier, happier, more productive, more loving life.
That's amazing. And because I often see people, they almost hit this set point. So they're kind of going to fight or flight mode, and then they hit this set point where they cross over it, and then everything is emotionally reactive. Something falls on the ground and breaks, and it is the worst disaster in the world. And so I often talk to people and I say, you've kind of hit that threshold, and now everything is reactive, and they have to learn how to calm back down. And I would imagine, is that kind of at a 4 or 5 level?
That's at 3, 4, and 5. So 1 and 2, they're just, how do I feel? Oh, I'm hungry. Oh, I'm really, really hungry. You can still feel bad at 2, but you're connected. 3, 4, and 5 disconnected. So that brings up some definitions. Every single moment of every single day, just like heart rate changes, your heart rate needs to be variable.
Right.
Well, your brain state, your physiological brain state, needs to go up and down based on what's going on in your life, right? That's the brain state. You check your brain state with your EBT app.
Okay.
And then you switch it up to a higher state, typically 1. Okay. So the way that works is that the brain is pretty smart, because it's saying this emotional brain has kept us non-extinct. It's that flexible. It can handle a pandemic. It can handle a post-pandemic. We just have to play it like a violin, not like a garage band, okay? So what it's doing is it's saying, okay, what I'm going to do is no matter what comes my way, I am going to honor that that's where I'm at right now, and I'm going to spiral back up. And as we do that, let's say that we had a bad time, like my mother died in 2007. Interesting, right when I discovered that it was a 5-point system, right when my father, who I, was such my closest relationship was my father. He's a chemist, or he was a chemist. He had the sense of humor. We did tons of things together, and we just had so much fun together. And once my mother died, he was just totally lost. His diabetes went out of control. He actually went into hospice care because he wouldn't eat. He lost 50 pounds and he was normal weight. And I was his caretaker. And so I was going through all this stress, and what happens is my brain was I was in constant stress overload. I had been in the habit of being more toward the 1 and 2, right?
Yeah.
And my set point, or my brain's habit, I got a lot of experience being in 4 or 5. My set point went down to 4. Okay, so there's 2 numbers you have. The most important numbers are not your blood pressure or your weight. What your most important numbers is what's my brain state in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not at 1, I have the choice of spiraling up to 1. And the second number that's most important is my set point. So the more I spend time at 3, 4, or 5, like during the pandemic, everyone's set point went down, or most people's did. So it went from, let's say the average in the United States was 3.5 down to 4.5. Now these set points control the physiology. In other words, the chemicals in every cell of our body, they are the root of our health. And if our set point is 3, 4, and 5, it doesn't matter what health problem we have, that we're going to have them. Whatever we're vulnerable to, we're going to get, whether it's cancer or drinking or diabetes or stomach problems or whatever, we're going to have problems. So you should know your set point. And we're working very hard that doctors know that you've got to check the set point, because that's the predictor of death and illness. That's everything, that set point.
Wow.
The goal of EBT is to say to people, start where you are. So what if you're set point 5? If you're set point 5, you need some medical care. You need some medications and all that, but you also need to team it with the resiliency tools to get out of that stress ditch and raise your set point up. Let's start right where you are, and let's start moving up that state over and over. Change your state to change your trait. And you change it over and over again. You do it in groups, you do it in community, you do it with your partner, and there's a program to actually raise your set point. And that's what we're trying to do. Your set point is really the indication of the quality of your life and where your life is going. Get your set point up after the pandemic, and what's going to happen is your mind's going to open up, you're going to be resilient, and you'll come up with the best ideas, the best energy, and the best relationships, and that's going to make all the difference.
Oh, that's wonderful. And this actually leads into my next question of, how do people learn this? So you've mentioned the app, but do they need to work with someone one-on-one to learn EBT and all that it encompasses, or is the app enough?
Well, the app is the starting point for everyone. That's on our website. It's only available through our website at ebt.org. But it's behind that app is a whole constellation of coaches and support systems and e-learning and forum boards. We have really everything from just coming in as a basic member and having access all the way to concierge services. But the issue is that everyone starts in the same place. They get the app, and the whole idea behind EBT is, if it's not fun, it's not EBT. And I had a nurse practitioner who's doing EBT right now, came to me, and we have drop-in groups, free drop-in groups, so people can ask an EBT certified provider what's going on. So she comes in and she says, Laurel, you know what I really like about EBT? And I said, what? She says, number 1, it's reliable. Whenever I use the app, I can spiral up. Number 2, in other words, it works, and it always works. It works no matter what I'm upset about or what I get on that pathway and find. And the second is that, I've spent years in therapy, and many therapists use EBT as a bolt-on, so that between sessions, their clients use EBT to stop the reactivity and to get the therapy going faster. She says, but I go to therapy and it's so gosh darn depressing, because I'm talking about all my issues and my problems and whatever. And you keep telling me that if it's not fun, it's not EBT. And so the issue is that you have to have fun doing this. If you're not having fun, we're not doing our job. And
Yeah.
so you come in, you get the app and you start experimenting. Wow, this actually works. After about 1 month, you're going to say, I think this could help me more. I think this could help me with my relationship with my husband, or with my work procrastination, or with my stomach issues, or with my overeating. And then there's a 30-day course. There's one for stress overload for people that tend to go toward anxiety and depression and whatever. And another one, a lot of people, about 70% of people in this country go to eating and they think it's a food problem, and it's really a stress problem. And so they learn the skills there. But either way, you learn how to rewire 4 little stuck places in your brain that you choose. You say, well, I'm going to rewire my anxiety circuit, or I'm going to rewire my my merging circuit and wanting to fix everybody, or I'm going to rewire my work procrastination. You pick out 4 circuits and you're going to learn how to go to a deeper level. And at that point, we don't want you to think any more about problems. We want you to have even more fun. And these courses are 30 days each. And then we say, you know what, you're telling me you have problems. I don't think you have problems, because any moment, you're so skilled in EBT right now, after a month, 2 months, you can spiral up out of those problems to brain state 1, where all you can see in your mindset is goodness and strength and wisdom and love. So you don't have problems, but you do need to get the set point of your brain up. So the way you do that is there's 7 30-day courses, and you focus on a reward: sanctuary, peace and power from within, and then authenticity, then vibrancy, then integrity, then intimacy, and then spirituality, and then freedom. And that's what we want in our country. That's brain state 1, where you are so connected, so loving, and so willing to go down to brain state 5 without judgment and clean up whatever you need to clean up for the coming years of what's still going on. So you always keep ahead of life. You're not lagging back with old expectations, and that you come back to that state of connection and love, and then you find your purpose and you move forward in that way.
That's wonderful. And the app is great because you can apply it every day or however many times you want to as you're moving along, correct?
Exactly. It only takes 2 minutes. And the other thing we have on our website that's really important is we learned early on from our research, and it was research conducted at University of Kentucky by this wonderful woman who came and said, look, I think that the app and the groups are good, but I think there's a missing element of emotional connectivity among peers. People helping people help themselves. So she did a study, and she found out that the number of times that you and I could do a connection right now, and I would get on the phone with you and I'd say, through my app, so it's all private, I'd say, Amy, is this a good time? And you'd say yes or no. Okay, so say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay,
it's a good time.
Yes. Okay, so do you want to spiral up, or do you want me to? What do you like? And you negotiate.
Okay, I'd like to spiral up.
Okay, great.
If that's possible.
Great. So you're going to look at your app. I can take you through it if you want, but you're going to spiral up. We could even do it if you want. And then afterwards, I'm going to say some kind words to you, like, wow, when you did that, I really felt happy and sad. And the way it was a gift to me is I learned a lot by listening. And then I say, bye-bye. So it's 5 minutes. Okay.
Oh, wow.
In those 5 minutes, both people are cleansed of their stress. Both people feel a sense of joy. And so we developed an EBT community, Connect community, where you can get into a little group where you meet for half an hour every week. And then all during the week, you have access to connecting with each other, or not, you don't have to, but you spiral up. So if I'm in a stuck place, when I use the skills with another person, they work twice as well. And it's free. So we believe in people helping people. I think we're too dependent upon health professionals and medications. We need to have all of that we need, but truly the solution, the healing comes from within, and it comes from that repeated spiraling up. That's just a skill that anyone can learn. And we do it by ourselves. In the middle of the night, if I can't sleep, I reach for my app. I go, boop, boop, boop. It just takes 2 minutes and boom, I'm out. So there's a lot we can do for ourselves to connect with each other. But all of that's on the app at ebt.org.
Okay. And it's great because you don't have to think through something. You can go to the app and just follow along, correct? And I imagine this is something we have to practice on a daily basis to retrain and rewire ourselves.
Right. It takes doing it progressively, but again, back to, if it's not fun, it's not EBT. When you first start, you'll probably do it 5 times a day. then
Okay.
the resiliency pathways in your brain get really strong and
Okay.
it wants more. And I say, it only takes 2 minutes. I'm going into a meeting to see a patient, or I'm going to see a client, or I'm going to come home to my teenager who's really difficult to be around right now. I'm going to spiral at first. So people do it more.
Mhm.
And then they go into the courses, a basic course, and then the courses for all the rewards of purpose. And they just stay with it until they have all the rewards that they want. So, but you're never taxed. You know, what's really worked is not EBT and spiraling out.
Okay.
It's spiraling down and staying stuck there, because
Yeah.
that's called suffering. And about 70% of us right now, we are suffering. And that's
Right.
completely unnecessary. You're a spiral up away for that moment of feeling better or even great. And then the more you spiral up, the more you stay in that state. As well as I'll always say, for the rest of my life, like, you're going to want to spiral down and do an emotional cleanse and update your circuits, but you stay there for just a few minutes. You don't get stuck there. And that's the real freedom. That's
Yeah.
the freedom.
So, what are all the different conditions you've helped by, with using EBT? Because I know you list a lot on your website, so I recommend people go to the website. But I just want you to touch base, if you don't mind, on just some of the different ways that people have helped themselves using this technique.
Right. So one of the common ways is people are used to, because they're set points in stress, being stressed. So they don't really know they're stressed. And stress can show up as a false high. Everything's fine when it's not. Numbness, or the depression, anxiety. They usually know they're stressed, but a lot of people don't even know how stressed they are. But sometimes something happens. They go through a divorce. They go through a situation at work where they're just completely flummoxed. They go through an illness, and all of a sudden they say, I'm more stressed than I knew. I need help. And they ask their friends, and their friends say, well, do you know about EBT? So a lot of it is in a moment of trauma, when you say to yourself, I think I need more. The common problems are, and most common in the United States, is anxiety, depression, and overeating. Okay, because those are the simplest, commonest things that happen to all of us are those things. And the treatments for them right now are medications and diets. And so what gives me a lot of joy is the fact that, well, no, it actually makes me angry. So why don't I do a cycle? You want me to do a
Yes,
cycle?
please. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. I feel, okay. So the situation is, so if you were following along with me on the app, it just feeds this to you, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. It tells you a lead in, a couple of words, and then you just use that with your thinking brain. And then you consult with your body where you experience your emotional brain and just say whatever comes to your mind. I have to say in advance, there may be expletives here. And also there may be, it may not make any sense. It doesn't have to. It's from the unconscious mind. And the unconscious mind is a little bit mixed up, right?
Yes.
So the situation is right now in our country, we have epidemics of cancer, diabetes, obesity, anxiety, depression, heart disease, relationship problems, addiction, and people are suffering. And the three top problems are anxiety, depression, and overeating or obesity. And people think they need to go on a diet, which eventually is, it's good to change your behavior. But if you don't go to the root cause, and anxiety, they may need a medication. They may need that support. And if therapy is just like having a really smart friend who's highly resilient. And so that's never not a good thing to do. But so the situation is, I'll be brief. I'm going to do it in 2 minutes. Do you want to?
Absolutely.
I'm going to do it in 2 minutes.
Okay.
And so I'm not going to make sense, you guys. I'm not going to make sense. This is how I do it. Okay. And this is how you learn to do it on the website. The situation is, we are killing ourselves with anxiety, depression, and obesity. And people still think they're just going to fix it with diets and positive thoughts. What I'm most stressed about is people aren't using EBT. They have to can stop suffering. Now I'm going to be angry. I've got to get really angry. Watch this. I feel angry that people are suffering. I can't stand it that people are suffering. I hate it that it's so easy to do this and they're not doing it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Now I can feel it in my body. Now I'm going to go for a tingle, because I'm going to start to tingle because I'm changing my biochemistry. I feel, and then I'm not going to dally in these emotions, because you just pass through them. You just pass through them. I feel sad that it's not happening. I feel afraid that people will never get these skills. I feel guilty that I'm I've been too much of a scientist and not enough of a pragmatist. I feel grateful that I'm talking to you, Amy. I feel happy that it's a beautiful day out. I feel secure that things will go as they should go in their right time. And I feel proud that I haven't quit. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. But I'm not going to stop at that. I'm
Okay.
back at 1 now. I
Okay.
feel tingle all over my body. I've changed my whole body chemistry. This is my body chemistry at its best. This is why EBT is the foundation for healthcare. Okay, I've got a great tingle going right now, I have to say.
That's awesome.
But 50 to 70% of health after you've gotten through the stress is taking action.
Yeah.
And we have not had a really good way to do that, to motivate ourselves. And this little tiny skill that's included in every time you spiral up, I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to say what I expect of myself is reasonable. I'm going to give myself an atta girl, some positive, powerful thoughts. I'm going to face the hard parts so I can become more mature, more resilient, stronger, and smarter. And then I'm going to get a higher order reward. Whenever we bring to mind the reward of purpose for the greater good, because this is essentially the emotional brain's the seat of the soul. So this is spiritual work without a religion. It's just basically spiritual. So I'm going to see, I don't know what I'm going to say because I don't have to know, because I'm going to use my thinking brain with EBT, and my unconscious mind is smarter than my conscious mind anyway. So I expect myself to do the best I can. That's lead in. I expect myself to do the best I can to keep on trucking, doing the best I can. Positive and powerful. I can do that. What's the hard part for me? Now, right now in my mind, I can see a picture of me trucking and going forward. That's a neural circuit.
Yeah.
And now I can really see this is a neural circuit, and I'm going to find out what's going to be hard for me. What's the essential pain for me? I'd have to face and feel and let fade, that I'm not in complete control. And the earned reward is vibrancy, which is more than healthy. It's healthy with a zest for life, a real connection to the deepest part of ourselves. And now I not only feel a tingle, but I feel a glow. And that's joy. And that's my best state for health and for living my best life.
That's wonderful. That's amazing to see you go through it. I actually feel better too, just watching you go through it and seeing how quickly you can go through it. I can see how it's freeing for both people.
Do you want to give me a connecting message? Can I show you how to do that?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So in order to make these community connections that you get when you're in a group, you get connection buddies that you can always say no, but you have an opportunity, and it becomes really a wonderful way of life. The average person does 7 of them a week, and they only take like 5 minutes, but it's a big part of EBT to getting better results faster. You're just going to say some feelings that came up for you that you think would be safe for you to say and nurturing for me to hear. Like, when you did your work, I felt sad and then happy, and now I feel joy. And then it was a gift to me. And it's really you being vulnerable back, because I've been vulnerable, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
these connecting messages are very important. There's shared vulnerability, and you don't have to open up unless you feel safe doing it. You can just say, no, I don't want to say one. But the way it was a gift to me is I got inspired to do this. Just something about you and your own emotional and spiritual evolution that I helped because I opened up. So first, the feelings that came up that I want to share were?
Sure. That one, I was proud that you were expressing your anger and on this and expressing something that was so important to you. And then it was the wonder of watching you go through the full spectrum of emotions. And I could see the flow of you going from anger to sad to grateful to joy, and just seeing that and how quickly you could do that. It is very motivating for me to go learn this now. And now I want to, well, one, share it, which we're doing on this platform, but now I want to go learn it so I could tell everyone else in my life to go do it as well.
Great. Thank you, Amy.
It was very powerful. And I just really love that it's short, it's quick, that you can help other people that quickly. And the fact that it impacted me and made me feel better, I'm like, okay, we need to get this out there more. And I want to go practice it with someone.
Super.
Oh, very neat.
So this is what's called collective resonance, dyadic resonance. When one person spirals up, the other person, the emotional brain has no walls. So even if they were in a mediocre mood or a bad mood or whatever, they're going to catch that joy. And then it's going to reverberate back and forth. And that's the deepest meaning of life, that ability to connect on an emotional level and do it do it as a part of your daily practice, you know.
Oh, I love it. And I really appreciate you going through that. It helped to bring everything together that we had been talking about beforehand. So wonderful. Thank you so much. And one other thing I just wanted to touch on, you've written several books, many of which are bestsellers. And can you just touch base on kind of the concepts of your books, and are there ones that you would point people to kind of get started as well?
Well, during the pandemic, I was, writing books. So there's the simplest book on EBT is called The Stress Solution. And it teaches you that simple pathway in the brain from brain state 4 all the way to joy. So if you want to keep it simple, just get that book and then become a member of EBT and get the app.
Okay.
The reason the app is necessary, and even I use it because obviously I've memorized these tools, but I don't want to use my conscious mind to try to bring up the next lead in.
Got it.
I want the app to do the work so I can go deeper into my body and really feel my feelings. But there are actually, along that pathway that I just showed you, there are 20 very small, tiny steps.
Okay.
That's too many for anyone to get properly.
Mm-hmm.
And so essentially you just get the Spiral Up book, and it's got colors, all rainbow colors all over the front of it, and then go to ebt.org and get a basic membership, and you'll be off and running. There's people who are there for drop-in clinics that will guide you, but it's really fun. There, if you're more analytical and you want to learn all 5 brain states, there's a book called What's My Number? And then if you really get into it therapeutically, there's a book called The Stress Overload Solution and the Stress Eating Solution. That's a 30-day program. All of those are available free to you when you join at ebt.org. So on your homepage, you'll have all of those books. So you can go to Amazon, but if you go to our membership, you'll have instant access to all 4 of those books.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great value for what you're offering to people and how much you can help them. So really appreciate everything you have shared with us today, explaining how EBT works and your app. I thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy. It's been what a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. And any last 1-minute piece of advice that you want to give to people as we wrap up?
Absolutely. Know that on the day you were born, right now, people are so stressed that they feel broken.
Yeah.
And please understand that this is just stress overload, and that our whole nation has not been prepared to be stress protected. And that's the role of EBT, to go into the deeper parts of the brain and have them turn into joy. What I want you to know is that on the day you were born, you had all the inherent strength, goodness, and wisdom you would ever need to get past a pandemic and a post-pandemic and all the other things that are coming up in your life. All you ever required were the tools to access it. These are the tools, and you can learn them very quickly and see results right from the start.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you again so much for your time and for sharing all of this. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you all for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend and take care. Bye now.